and welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing some brand new dies. We have our sunny sunflower dies, which I just love. We have our sunflower border dies, which are so much fun. And then we also have our You Crow Girl stamp set, which has awesome coordinating dies. And it also has an awesome coloring stencil that helps you color it in, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. Now, I love You Crow Girl so much because she is a wonderful match to one of my favorite stamp sets, which is Happy Harvest. And you can mix and match all of these stamp set elements together to make the cutest cards. First, we're going to take a look at the sunny sunflower, and you'll see in the sunflower you get, of course, the flower, you get the center of the flower, and then two stems which are pointing in the two different directions and two leaves pointing in the different directions. So you can create your own sunflower garden. And so to layer these pieces, all you need to do is just add some adhesive to the back of the center and add it to the center of the flower. And of course, you could have your flower plain just like this, but I really like the look of the two layered. It really gives that gorgeous sunflower look. So we're going to layer them and then stagger them just a little bit, and that's going to give us this beautiful sunflower. And sunflowers are my absolute favorite flower. They are just the happiest flower, and I am just in love with these. Now you'll see there's a circle at the stem. We're going to add some adhesive to that circle, and that's going to layer behind the flower. And now we have a flower that's kind of leaning to the side a little bit. They're leaning over to the right with that stem. And of course we have these leaves, which you could add two leaves to each sunflower or just have one leaf on the sunflower. And then now we're going to take the stem that is curving towards the left, and we're going to layer that behind another little sunflower. And then we can add a leaf to this one as well. So I think this is so cute, and it's so nice to have the two stems because you could have two sunflowers in a vase or in a garden, which is absolutely gorgeous. Now we're going to take a look at the sunflower border, which of course has this border of flowers. It has individual flowers and then the flower centers. And so the first thing you can do is just add some adhesive to the center of the flowers and then layer those flower centers right in. Now the cool thing is you can do the sunflower border just like this. I think it looks really, really cute. But you can also layer those individual flowers behind to create a more full sunflower look. The other thing that I love about those individual flowers is you could create tiny little individual sunflowers as well, which I really like to do on my cards. And Shari's going to do that in just a little bit on her super cute card she's going to make. And so here you can see I'm just layering each of those flower centers behind, kind of staggering them to create this really full, gorgeous sunflower border. Now you can use this sunflower border on a landscape card, and it fits really wonderfully on a portrait card, and it's just the perfect fall border. I think this sunflower, oh my gosh, it's just so cute. So now we're going to take a look at the You Crow Girl stamp set, which has, of course, this cute little scarecrow. We have a little mouse that's looking up at her, and then a cute little crow who's not scared of her at all. And then we have some little details that you can add to her dress. So we have a little pocket and a patch, and so you can kind of create your own outfit. So you could have her dress plain, or you can add these cute little patches or pockets. There's also even a little heart that looks really cute stamped on her dress as well. So I like that you can kind of be a little scarecrow fashion designer with this stamp set. There's also a cute little bow and a flower and that heart that I was just talking about. Now there's some little rosy cheeks that you can stamp on her in pink ink, which looks really, really cute. And then of course we have some great phrases. So we have some tiny sentiments. We have caw to go along with the little crow. We have yeah, which is so cute. It goes along with some of the sentiments. And also, I hope you like this card with the little caw from the crow. And then we have these fun mix and match sentiments. So we have You Crow Girl, and then we also have some awesome ones. So I love watching our friendship grow, or I love watching our friendship crow. So I love that you can either do the plain sentiment or you can do one that has the fun pun as well. Now it's time to add some color to these adorable images. And so I'm going to be using my Copic markers here, but in just a little bit, I'm going to show you the coloring stencils as well. And this cute little scarecrow was designed to work with our stamp set Happy Harvest, which is a favorite stamp set that has a super cute scarecrow in it. So she works so great mixed and matched with him, and you can mix and match the elements from both of the stamp sets together, which I think is so awesome. Right now, to color in her dress, I'm using really dark BG markers, and this is inspired by some coloring by Tammy, which was just so beautiful, and I really, really like those markers for kind of that denim look. I think it's so pretty. Now I'm going to be using some browns for her cute little hat to make it kind of into a straw hat. And she is just so much fun to color because once again, you kind of feel like a little fashion designer. You can decide where her patches are going to go, what color her dress and her shirt are going to be. I mean, it's just so much fun. And so there you can see I'm adding that same color to the little buttons so that things kind of coordinate. And then we're going to add a nice bright pop of pink for her shirt. And I'm going to add pink to her hat and also her pigtails and the patch as well, just so that we have all these cute coordinating elements that all go together. Next, I'm going to work on the straw, and so I'm using some yellow markers here to just add the super cute color to the straw, and I ended up just using the darkest and the lightest. So I kind of did the lightest, and then I did an extra little line with the darkest marker again, just to make it kind of stand out and give it that shadow, and I think that turned out really pretty. Then we're going to work on her face and then also the stick at the bottom as well. I'm just going to use the same browns for that. And then I'm going to give her some rosy cheeks, which I think just looks really, really cute on her. Now here are some of those extra little elements that you can stamp on the dress or not. You could stamp the flower, the heart, the patch, the pocket. You can also die cut the little flower and put it in her hat as well and the bow too. So there's a lot of fun ways to mix and match the elements in this set. For this cute little mouse, I'm going to color in his overalls green. He is just so sweet. And of course, he can be mixed and matched with any of our mouse sets, which I love so much. And he is just adorable. And now we're going to go ahead and add some brown to him as well. And I'm using those same E40 markers that I used for her hat. And I like that because it kind of helps everything coordinate and flow together so that I can put them all on the same card. And then here I'm going to use some black and gray markers to color in this cute little crow. He is just so teeny tiny and adorable, and I love layering him right onto the Scarecrow. Now these are the coordinating dies, which you can bend apart at the tabs or use your wire snips to separate. And so we're going to line those up with our stamped images, hold them in place with some low tack tape, then we can run it through the die cut machine and we'll have perfectly cut out images every time. And oh my goodness, she is just looking so cute. And here are all of the images from the set. I just love the Scarecrow and the mouse and the crow, and I love that I can mix and match it with elements from Happy Harvest. You can, of course, add the cute little things onto her outfit, onto her hat. You can add the bow onto the other critters. There's so many fun ways to mix and match all the elements. And I think my favorite is the flower in her hat. It's just adorable. And here are the coloring stencils for You Crow Girl. These coloring stencils are so awesome, and it is a pack of 3 of them. And you can see there's the etched details of all of the images so that they're really easy to line up. And then it says 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, so you can make sure you can keep them organized. It's also designed to be the exact same size as the stamp set, so no matter how you store your stamp sets, your stencils will fit right in with them. And so to use the coloring stencils, all you need to do is just line it up with your image, and those etch guidelines make it really easy to line up. And then you just need to brush on your favorite colors of ink. And so here you can see I'm using a really pretty blue color here, and I'm kind of adding darkness towards the outside and keeping it lighter towards the center to create a little bit of a shaded effect on her. To even add some more shading, you can take out a darker blue. That was Forget Me Not, and now we're going to take out Fish Tank, and you can add just a little bit of the darker blue to the outside edges. And by doing that, you can create more of a shaded effect. So the coloring stencils look amazing with one color of ink, or you can have fun and mix and match multiple colors of ink. So just like we did with our other Scarecrow, we used some pinks and blues, and so I figured I could use some pinks and blues for her too. So we're going to add some pinks for the hat. And once again, usually I just use one color of ink, but I thought it would be fun to kind of play around with the idea of using 2 colors of ink to get that really pretty shaded effect. Now I'm going to use that same pink for her arms, and it's really easy to follow along with the stencils. You just shift your stencil down and you're going to work your way through all of the cute elements on her outfit. So I think that's just adorable. I can't tell you how much fun it is to do these coloring stencils. It's just so satisfying to add your ink on there and then lift up your stencil and get the amazing surprise of what it looks like underneath. And if you want to learn a little bit more about coloring stencils, make sure to check out our Intro to Coloring Stencil video. I'll link it in the description below. Now here on her hat, I'm just using one color of ink, and I'm going heavier on the outside of the hat and keeping it lighter towards the center to get a shaded look with just one color. For the straw, I'm using a light color, which is some butter color here. That's a really nice light yellow. And you can see that all of the straw pieces are on the same part of the stencil, which makes it really easy to just use that same color ink to cover up all of those areas of the Scarecrow. And here you might notice my favorite little crafty helper, my son Miles. He absolutely loves coloring stencils. So you'll notice he almost always appears in the videos as soon as the coloring stencils come out because they are so much fun to do. He was just telling me how much he wants to share them with one of his friends because he wants her to see how cool they are. So not only are coloring stencils fun for me, but they're really fun for kids too, which is awesome. Now for mice, I almost always use pizza crust color ink because it's just like the perfect color for these adorable little mice. And then you can see you can just layer over some pink over the ink, the ear and the nose. And then Miles thought that some pink overalls would be adorable. So we're going to use the same pink that we used for the Scarecrow for the overalls. That way these would both match and look really, really beautiful on a card. The little overalls even have the little pocket details. So I like to go over with the same color ink and just create a little darker pocket. Now for our little crow, we can just use some gray ink. I'm using some hippo here. And then for his beak, I'm just going to use some orange ink, and I just used whatever was left on my orange brush. And you'll see it just looks perfect. So these coloring stencils look absolutely amazing. It's just a fun way to color, and I just have a blast with them. So whether you love coloring with markers or you love coloring with stencils, you're going to love these stencils because they're so much fun. And look how cute she looks. Oh my goodness. I just love this Crow Girl stamp set so much. And of course, like I told you guys before, I love sunflowers. So I wanted to make a card with the sunflower border. And here I wanted to show you the top one just is plain cardstock, and the bottom one I added some details with my markers. So I thought it would be fun to do that, to have them both coordinate. And by adding the detail with the markers, it just kind of spruces it up just a little bit, and it's really quick and easy to do. So I'm just taking a darker yellow around the inside and then a lighter yellow to kind of blend it out. And I just did nice little scribbles, and no matter how you do it, it's going to look beautiful. I just think it's so much fun to add detail to colors of cardstock like this. This would also be really great to do with some inks. You could just brush on a little bit of ink and just spruce up that cardstock just a little bit. And that's what I decided to do here. So I have some speckled eggshell cardstock, which is this really pretty kind of cream color, but I wanted it to really have that rustic vintage vibe. Like I wanted to go for that like 90s sunflower country market kind of feel. And so I'm taking some antique linen distress ink and just going all the way around my cardstock to give it that nice distressed feel that really reminded me. I have this like very specific memory of going apple picking in the 90s and seeing all these fun country markets and buying this sunflower blanket that I still have and love. So that's the look I was going for here. And here I have my falling leaves paper, which is a perfect match to this look. And there's this really great gingham plaid. And so I cut down pieces that were 5/8 of an inch tall, and then they're going to be 4¼ inches wide so that they can go on the top and the bottom of my card. So I'm going to add some adhesive there with my tape runner and just layer these on the top and the bottom. And I wanted to make a nice, clean and simple card so that these sunflowers could really just be the star of the show. They're just going to be so beautiful. And so I'm just going to add some adhesive behind the sunflowers, and then I'm going to layer them right at the point where the green and the speckled eggshell cardstock overlap. And so I'm just going to layer those on there, and you'll see that 5 of the sunflowers fit perfect on a portrait card. And so once I have those layered on, I can layer the ones on the bottom too, and then I can just take my scissors and trim off the extra sunflowers so that there's a nice finished edge on either side. Next, I'm going to take out the little Woodland Library stamp set, and there's some really fun kind of punny sentiments in there. And there's one that says, "You are tops in my book." And so I'm just going to line those up, pick it up with my block, and I'm going to stamp it out in some dough ink, which is a nice brown, to keep all of these kind of browns and creams going on in my card. And I'm going to stamp that towards the bottom of my card. Then I wanted to make a bold sentiment to go along with this as kind of like the sub sentiment. And so here I'm going to take out my falling leaves paper and take one of those beautiful fall leaf papers and die cut my giant thank you die. And I love it with all the fall leaves on it. I also went ahead and die cut it from some paper bag cardstock, which is kind of like this medium brown color. I'm going to add some liquid glue behind the one that's cut out of the leaf paper. And I'm going to layer it over the top and then just shift it over to the right just a little bit so that there's just a little bit of a shadow. And that's really going to help it kind of pop on my background, as you can see right there. I think that shadow looks so cool. So I'm going to add some more liquid glue to the back of this, and now I can layer this onto the card. And the fall leaves with that sentiment, I just think it looks so pretty. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. So I'm just going to hold that down while that dries, and then my last little finishing thing that I'm going to do is bring in some images from that little Woodland Library stamp set. And so there's an open book and a cute little bookworm, and so I'm going to layer this into the scene. So I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back of those, and we're gonna layer that right on the O, which is a really cute place to put a little critter. Of course, you could do a card that just had the thank you and didn't have the little book theme to it. So I like that this design could code two different ways, but I just couldn't help myself. I think that little worm in the book is just the cutest thing. Now here is a standard size card at 5.5 by 4.25. We're gonna add some adhesive to that and then layer the whole panel on top. And now this card is all done, and oh my goodness, it really does have those fun 90s vintage sunflowery vibes that I just love. And now Shari has two incredible cards for you that you guys are gonna love. So take it away, Shari.
So I have already stamped and colored, cut out my images from You Crow Girl. I did add the little pocket and the cute little patch to her dress. I think it's fun that you can add these embellishments or leave them off. I like to embellish my Scarecrow images with some little hatch marks on the hat to make it look like straw. And I'm also going to pull out my white gel pen and add some details to her shirt. I think it's always fun to add some lines like a flannel shirt or a plaid shirt. I just think that that is a really fun way to add even more detail to these images. So I'm also adding a few little dots to the patch like it is some patterned fabric that she's patched her dress with. And there she is. I think she's just adorable. I'm so excited to have a girl scarecrow to add to our stash with Mr. Harvest. I'm using some of the falling leaves paper to cut a panel with the outside in stitch rectangle. This is from that fun pattern paper with all the fall leaves. For the smaller panel here, I'm actually using some of the pint-sized pattern Summertime. I really like this blue with the little bubbles. And then I'm also going to use the yellow plaid from the falling leaves paper pack to cut my sunflower border. And this is just a really fun way to add some extra design and detail to this border. So there are two dies that cut sunflowers in the sunflower border set. This one cuts all those sunflowers attached together, which make the border, but there's also a die that cuts some individual sunflowers to layer over top to make them look nice and full. So I'm going to cut some of those individual sunflowers as well, and you'll see when I layer them on top, you get that nice full flower. For the centers, I'll be cutting these from some chocolate bar cardstock, so a nice dark cardstock for those flower centers. And I'm going to go ahead and assemble some of these. I only cut 4 to start out with, but I'm going to cut a bunch more because I am going to fill this up with sunflowers. So I'm layering those 4 individual ones that I cut out of that same pattern paper over top of the 4 sunflowers in the center. I will go ahead and add the 4 centers that I cut as well. But as you can see, I am definitely going to need lots more sunflowers. I did cut a second border thinking I might layer the two together, but I did not end up doing that in the end. But no worries, I will still use those sunflowers on my card. Now I'm using a card base that is kraft cardstock, so I have that little kraft frame around my piece of pattern paper. And I'm also going to go ahead and add the blue little panel to the center of my card as well. This is where my little scarecrow girl is going to be. I cut a sentiment banner using these stitch sentiment banners from some speckled eggshell cardstock, and I'm using the long distance hugs stamp set for my sentiment. I think the sentiment that says sending hugs is so cute with these little scarecrows because they have their arms out like they're ready to give you a hug, right? I also love this stamp set because there is a die that cuts out this smaller Scripty hugs. So I can stamp that on some speckled eggshell cardstock, cut it out with the coordinating die, and it will go onto my little sentiment banner and not cut off any of the words. So now I'm stamping the word sending to the left side on the sentiment banner, and then the word hugs will go right beside it, and I can just glue that down. And I like that the H and the G kind of go off the top and the bottom of the banner. And this will go right along the bottom below my scarecrow. Now I'm finishing up some of these flowers to make my border a little bit longer, so I've added some more layers of petals and the centers of those sunflowers. And then I'll just trim it down to the right length when I'm ready to put it on my card. So I've put some foam adhesive all over the back of her and I'm going to center her up in the middle of that blue square. I also have a few little embellishments to add, the little flower to her hat and the little bow to her waistband. I'll add some foam squares to the back of my sentiment banner so it is popped up too, and tuck the end of the post right below that banner. Now I decided that I wanted to center this with a flower right in the middle, so I only needed 5 to stretch across my card. So you saw I cut one off there, but don't worry, I am going to use that sunflower on this card. So I decided to go with only one border at the bottom, and then I'm going to use a couple single sunflowers to fill in. I wanted it to look like she was in a big field of sunflowers, standing there watching over everything. So I'm adding one on each side to make it kind of nice and even. I do need to tuck this one underneath my sentiment banner, underneath that foam square. I do need to add my other little images. So I have the little crow from the stamp set and also this cute little mouse, and he's going to tuck right here below or underneath my sentiment banner. And then I don't want this other border that I cut to go to waste, so I'm actually just going to cut the pieces apart and use them like they are the single sunflowers and layer a couple more together to kind of scatter around my card. So I'm going to end up layering up about 3 more. And I'll put 2 towards the top like embellishments and also one more at the bottom. So I'm just going to place these here to make sure I like the way they look. I decided one more would kind of fill in that empty space right to the right side of my scarecrow. So I'll make one more for that spot. And I'll just tuck that in and behind her. But since I put the mouse on the one side, I felt like this side needed a little something to balance it out, and this sunflower works perfectly. I'll also glue down those 2 that I have in the upper left corner, kind of going off of the edge of my blue panel, and I just think that's a really fun look. And then finally, I want to add some glitter. So I added some glitter to the center of all the flowers, just a little dab of glitter. Also to the center of the daisy on her hat. And then there is this little stamp set in there that says caw, and I thought stamping that with my little crow was the perfect little touch. So here is my finished card with those sunflowers and that cute little you crow girl. I cannot wait to pair her up with the scarecrow from Happy Harvest this fall. So I have my pieces of my sunny sunflowers cut. For the petals, I use some sunflower cardstock. For the centers, I'm using paper bag. For the stems, I have some noble fir. And then for the leaves, I actually use the green plaid from the Falling Leaves Petite paper pack. I do want to add some shading and dimension to these die cuts. So I'm starting out with the sunflower petals and I'm using some number 2 pencil ink to add some shading to all of these petals. Each sunflower will have 2 pieces layered together, so I have 4 cut here so I can make 2 flowers. Then for the centers, I'm using some walnut ink to add some shading to those centers. These are cut from paper bag cardstock. I love how the shading kind of enhances the little die cut details on the center of the flowers. Next, I'll be adding some Noble Fir ink to those pattern paper leaves. This is going to make them match the stems a little bit better, which are cut from Noble Fir cardstock. Kind of tone down that pattern, make it a little more subtle, but I love the look of this pattern paper with these die cuts. I also thought it would be fun to add some tiny little white watercolor splatters to the centers to give them even more texture like they are real sunflowers. So that's what I'm doing here. And these splatters are super teeny tiny. You probably can barely see them. Now I'm ready to start assembling my sunflowers. Each of the sunflowers requires 2 petal pieces. We'll glue them together in the center and shift them to where the petals are offset and in between the ones that are behind them. And look what beautiful full sunflowers we get when we do this. Then we can add the center of the sunflower right in the middle. And I just love the look of these beautiful sunny sunflowers. Now what I did on mine is I took the petals that were on the layer in the front and kind of curved them towards me, kind of flicked them a little to give them even more dimension and separate them a little bit from the petals in the back. You can see how those kind of stick up a little bit and have some really nice dimension. Now today I'm making a mini slimline card, so I'm taking the largest of the mini slimline rectangle stackables, and I'm using a piece of the falling leaves paper. I love this blue plaid. I'm lining it up and I'll cut this out, and this will be the background for my card. You can see how beautiful those sunflowers are on that background. Now I need a vessel for my flowers, and I'll be using the Build a Drink mason jar add-on to create a cute little jar for my sunflowers. I'm cutting the outline of the jar from some narwhal cardstock. Then for the inside of the jar, or the water, I'm going to cut the solid piece from some pearlescent vellum, which I think has a really cool look with that shimmer. So I have this solid piece of pearlescent vellum, but I need to cut the top off so that it looks like the water is down inside my jar. And to do that, I'll use this kind of S-shaped piece from the original Build a Drink die set. And now I have that water trimmed down, and I can add this to the back of my jar just by adding some liquid glue on the back of that frame and then lining that vellum up on the back side. Now my jar is ready to fill with some sunflowers, so I need to add the stems. Now for this one, I'm actually adding it a little bit lower so that I end up with a longer stem, but all you need to do is put some glue on that big round piece of the stem and layer that on to the back of the sunflower. Now these will go down inside my jar. So I want to go ahead and assemble my card a little bit by putting that pattern piece of paper onto the background. Before I add my pieces, I did decide to pull out some ink. So this is some Merman ink, and I'm just darkening up the edges. I just think that this gives it a cool vignette look, especially when you're using some pattern paper like this. So just a little bit of inking on the edges. I do need to give it a base to sit on, or a tabletop. So I'm using some knock on wood grain cardstock, cut it with that same stitched rectangle and just trimmed it down. So now my jar has a place to sit. I am going to add a little bit of walnut ink to this as well, and I'm just using what's already on my brush from a previous project. Then I can layer this along the bottom, and now I have a place to put my little jar full of sunflowers. So I'm just kind of figuring out the placement to see how far down the jar needs to go for those sunflowers to fit on the card nicely. I think I know exactly where it needs to go, so I'll just add this with a little bit of liquid glue. That looks good to me. So I'm just adding that there, and then I can slide my sunflowers down in. I only put my adhesive along the top, so it's still open for me to slide those down in. I'm actually going to slide the stems behind the vellum here. You'll see that in just a little bit. So I'm adding some glue on the back. You can see now I've moved my stem to be down in the water basically and behind the vellum, which I think is really fun because they kind of disappear down there in the water, but yet you can still see them a little bit. And I'm just kind of shifting them around to get their right placement, which is really easy to do with that liquid glue. I am making that taller one kind of hide behind the shorter one as far as the stem goes, so it doesn't look like it stops short of the bottom of the jar. Then I can add my leaves. And these are great to just kind of fill in the space. I'm tucking the stem of the leaf behind the stem of the flower. This one I'm actually going to end up tucking behind the jar a little bit just because I think that it looked best in that space right there. We are going to add a little bit more embellishment to the jar and a sentiment as well. So I just want this to kind of fill in and not distract from the space of those other things. Now, the Build a Drink mason jar has this little string die, a little bow, and also a little heart. We're going to cut a tag as well. And I'm just cutting this from a scrap piece of the falling leaves pattern paper. This is going to add like a little tie around the jar and a little bow with a tag. I was going to try doing this with some twine, but since you can see through my jar, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so this works perfectly. So we have our little bow. I also cut a little tag, which is also from the Build a Drink Mason jar set. This is cut from some speckled eggshell cardstock. And then I'll add that cute little heart to the tag. And I just think that this is so cute. Finally, we need a sentiment, and I thought it would be fun to cut the Scripty Thanks out of a coordinating pattern paper. This is from the Petite paper pack, so it has a much smaller gingham or grid on it than the background. I love mixing the 12 by 12 sheets with the 6 by 6 sheets and the different sizes of the patterns. I also cut the Scripty Thanks from some ground coffee cardstock, and I'm just layering the two together with a slight offset so I have a little bit of a shadow, and it's going to make that sentiment stand out very nicely along the bottom of my mason jar. So since I am gluing this across a bunch of layers and die cut things, I'm using my liquid glue, which will make this sentiment stay in place very nicely. I'll set that block on there just to kind of hold it down while that glue sets. It only takes a minute. And I'm adding some embellishments using the new sequin mix die. So you can kind of create your own custom colored sequins with this die. I chose to cut this from some gold sparkle cardstock. So I have some sparkly sequins. It comes in different shapes and different sizes. I'm just using the circle ones here to add a little bit of sparkle all around my card. Once I have them in the placement that I like them, I'll just pick them up and put them down with a little bit of liquid glue, just like I do regular sequins. And now we have a little bit of shine. And here is our finished card with those beautiful sunny sunflowers in the Build a Drink mason jar, which works perfectly for them. I love these big sunflowers, and I think they're going to be so much fun on my fall cards.
Oh my goodness, Shari, this jar of sunflowers could not be cuter. I love them so much. And your You Crow Girl card is so sweet. And the sunflowers all around her, oh my goodness, I just love it. And next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team. And first up, we have a card by Mindy, and she filled our money pocket die with these adorable sunflowers. And isn't this so sweet? I love the beautiful inking that she added to the leaves. It really gives them this gorgeous three-dimensional look. This card by Shari is so sweet. I love how she added the books and the tiny little apple with the sunflowers going up vertically. Ah, so fun. And then here, Megan filled a slimline card with these awesome sunflowers. I just love it. It makes me smile. And then this You Crow Girl card by Tammy is so stunning. I love the beautiful pastels and the little pumpkins there too. This card by Grace is so much fun, and it is a swivel surprise card. And as you open the card, you get the amazing surprise of these gorgeous sunflowers. I love that these sunflowers are perfect for interactive cards too. This card by Mindy is clean and simple perfection. I love the stacked sunflowers with the sentiment on it. I can't wait to make one just like it. This card by Mindy is so much fun because she combined Happy Harvest and You Crow Girl together, and oh my goodness, they're a perfect pair. And then here, Audrey cut the sunflowers from felt and created the most gorgeous little decorative hanger. Oh my goodness, in person, it is just stunning. Shari also combined Happy Harvest and You Crow Girl together, and you can see how they are just a perfect match, and I love the little pumpkins and the sunflower she added. These sunflowers by Letitia are so beautiful. I love the gorgeous colors that she added onto them. It just makes me smile. And then here, Maureen created this super cute garden with our adorable gardening mice and the little row of sunflowers. Oh, just stunning. This card by Elise is amazing, and I love her sentiment in the center. It's just so pretty. And then here, Shari added our cute scarecrow into a leafy tree backdrop, which I think is just beautiful. And then these sunflowers in the window here that Shari created are just so much fun. I just love these sunflowers, and they're beautiful cut out of pattern paper, and it's so much fun to put them inside the mason jar too. I love that these sunflowers are great for year round. So we cannot wait to see all of your sunflower cards and your Crow Girl cards, so make sure to share them with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!